Picard Season 3, Episode 1 has dropped on Paramount+. This is a reunion of the Next Generation cast, so let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Let me know, what did you think about the premiere episode of Picard Season 3? Or are you someone that was so burned by the first 2 seasons of the show that you just threw in the towel? I would love to hear your thoughts on it. To that point, if you didn't follow my reviews of the previous seasons of Picard or Discovery, I've been pretty burned by the modern era of Star Trek on CBS All Access and now Paramount Plus. Both seasons of Picard had trailers that gave me all the feels, made me think they were going to be good. And even the first couple of episodes of each of the seasons, I was like, oh, I think I'm really digging this. I'm seeing Picard again. And by the end of the seasons, I was like, yikes, that was a disaster. That was really, really bad. And so then they announced that they're bringing back the Next Gen cast for Season 3. So it gets my hope up again. They put out the trailer, and I'm getting all the feels. It's another adventure through space, except this time with the whole Next Gen cast returning, I'm getting the feels again. But as a wise man once said,
there's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
So I was pretty cynical about Season 3 of Picard based purely on the history of this era of Star Trek. Then I actually liked Strange Worlds quite a bit. Thought maybe they're course correcting a little bit. Then something even crazier started to happen. Robert Meyer Burnett, who is someone that has historically been even more critical of modern era Star Trek than I have been, apparently saw it super early and has kind of been raving about it for months now. Kind of said, like, this is it. This is the Star Trek we've been waiting for decades. At this point in time, we're actually getting it. It actually is good. I was like, if Robert Meyer Burnett is actually kind of on board with Picard Season 3, maybe there is hope here after all. And so I watched the first episode this morning and then hopped onto YouTube, just kind of like do some searches, see any quick reactions. And there's a live stream from Nerdrotic. This is not an endorsement of Nerdrotic or to anybody say that I'm trying to affiliate with Nerdrotic. That is a stream of YouTube that I am no way part of. But infamously, whole brand is about how terrible most all modern franchises are and how they've kind of bastardized everything that were classic franchises of the 20th century. And he was doing a live stream about Picard Season 3 called Hell Has Frozen Over. So I just clicked on the beginning part of it, see what his take was, which I was pretty sure was going to be positive. He said, I haven't been taken over, but haven't gone crazy, but I liked Picard Season 3. So somehow the vibe for Star Trek, which has not been good for several years, a bunch of some of the most critical people of it are actually enjoying Picard Season 3. So what did I think about it? I don't really have any big criticisms of Episode 1. I've only seen one episode. I haven't seen the whole season. I've only seen what everyone else has access to. And it gave me all the feels. It was a whole episode of Picard and Riker being Picard and Riker as two old men, as two old friends, where they still have the respect dynamic, but it's evolved past that to where it's not actually one is subordinate to the other really anymore. They're just friends that are excited to go off on another adventure, deeply worried about a friend of theirs. I mean, that gave me all the feels. Like, oh, we're doing this again. We're actually doing this. But Episode 1 of Picard, Season 1, kind of gave me the feels like I'm seeing Picard again. Episode 1 of Season 2 of Picard is like, oh, this is kind of fun. We got Q back in the mix. Okay, what are we going to do here? So I still have a little bit of that skepticism, but does it feel like there's some course correction going on, that they learned a lot of lessons from the last 2 seasons, hopefully learn from the feedback of people being like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to like tear down Picard? Why are you trying to put him in his place? Why do you have like some admiral we've never met before, like lecturing Picard? Like, why were you doing that in the earlier seasons? You don't really have that here. You have him being sent on this mission that, secret mission, everything. So it's just a lot of fun. And I haven't seen it yet. It very much has kind of a political thriller vibe to it. Don't trust anyone. Don't trust Starfleet. I only trust you, Picard, to handle this mission. And so Picard goes to the only people that he trusts to kind of go on this mission. And they have to find a way to be able to do what they need to do. So it's kind of in that vein of Star Trek. So it's certainly distinct from what original Next Generation was of. They're very much working in the system, in the ship, and Starfleet's wonderful. It's continuing with a lot of the themes of what they've been doing Picard before, which is that Starfleet is not healthy right now, which I don't inherently hate that. I don't really like Starfleet being a stand-in for Trump's America. I think that's kind of a weird thing to do with Starfleet of all things. But the vibe of the show feels like Next Generation of just, there's like big stakes here. There's danger, obviously thriller. Who do you trust? But the energy is just like this sense of adventure and fun of these two guys that have done this many times before, and they're excited to do it again. That's kind of nice. Like that, like you feel that. And I mean, Riker is as charming as ever. We got a little bit of him in the previous two seasons, but like just him, you can just feel Jonathan Frakes loves playing this character and is so excited to have a prominent role off doing this again. So he's having a ton of fun with it. As you felt all of that, I've always felt, or I haven't always felt this. For a while, I feel like one of the biggest missed opportunities of Star Trek over the last 20 years was not giving us a show called Titan about 15 years ago, 5-6 years after the end of, after Nemesis, do a Riker show. Riker's a really fun character. He's got kind of that energy of Kirk, but he's not Kirk. He's his own kind of man. He's also a bit more of a family man. There's things that would make different, but he's fun enough, charismatic that he could lead a show, and they never did that. And so then even in some of what kind of goes on here, you get a little bit of flavor of him kind of off on the adventure again. One thing I loved that they did in this episode is it is just jam-packed with nostalgic music cues. And maybe it's like a cheap gimmick to make me love your show, make me really enjoy your show. But I mean, Star Trek for 40 years had unbelievably good music, just stellar themes. And so whether you're talking about original Trek movies, Next Generation pulling from Star Trek the Motion Picture, Next Gen films, they just brought in amazing composers that delivered awesome music. Like even Star Trek V, easily the worst movie, the music is fantastic in that film. And so you're just watching this episode and kind of these iconic images that were very prominent in the 80s and 90s of these star bases and their ships flying around them. And it has the music cues from back then. It's a cheap nostalgic trick, but it absolutely worked on me. And even I tried to check the credits in there that to see which ones were actually credited, which were the actual music cues. And some really overtly were the music cues from different shows and movies. I was wondering if they actually used James Horner music, but like as their Titan is leaving the dock, they have music cues in there that are very James Horner-esque. I didn't think it was actually any music from Star Trek 2 or 3, but it very much had the vibe of those films where you had these iconic leaving space dock sequences, and you're just the right Horner-esque music in there. And so like an episode of television pulling from overtly music cues from two of the best composers of Star Trek, while also having hints of my favorite, James Horner. I love the music of Star Trek 2 and 3. All in there, it's hitting all the right notes and everything. Certainly, every time that it cut away from Riker and Picard and went to the other returning character from the previous two seasons of the show, Starfleet intelligence lady, that was definitely like felt the energy drop. a little bit, although until the end. Like it leads to something that you're like, oh, this is serious. Like it leads to something. But at the beginning, we're just having so much fun with Riker and Picard, and then it cuts to her doing her investigation. You could feel the energy drop. Where the show never really sold me on the new characters, but of issues, that's a pretty minor one to bring up. Other things to talk about in here. I don't know where they're going with all of this. Another thing that I've always wanted with Star Trek, and this I've literally for decades been saying this, I always wanted them to follow up on the episode Conspiracy from season 1. I would say that's the best episode of season 1, or maybe it's the only good episode of season 1 is Conspiracy, which is a conspiracy thriller in Next Generation where don't trust Starfleet. We got to figure out what's going on, and it's gory and has monsters in it and stuff like that. And so when you get to this episode and it kicks off and there's like what's going on in the opening sequences and people in hiding and things like that, and send off a message to Picard saying, don't trust Starfleet. Could we finally be getting our follow-up to Conspiracy? That the end of that episode teased. Could they be taking an episode that is not like when normal people give their top 10 episodes of Next Generation, they don't list Conspiracy? I probably would, but are we finally getting the proper follow-up? Not even proper, some follow-up to it in a television format. I would love that. And it could potentially be, they've talked about some weapons and quantum technologies and some other things in there. But what if all of that ties back to the creatures having their revenge and taking over again? That'd be a lot of fun. But I think even final thoughts on there. There's a little bit of section in here where we spend some time with a modern era Starfleet captain. And to that idea of Starfleet isn't in the healthiest place, you have this captain that you see him and he's like everything that you don't want a captain to be. And he's doing what they did in the first couple episodes of Picard, where they have someone talking down to Picard, except it does it in a way where you're like, this guy's a moron. What's wrong with this guy? What is this guy doing? Only it makes him look like the worst rather than being something that feels like you're putting Picard in his place, which no audience member of Star Trek wants Picard put in his place. Why would you ever want that? As you just kind of see how Starfleet's kind of maybe lost its way without being just very goofy and its allegory of modern times. And obviously Star Trek's always been allegorical storytelling. I don't think it has been done very well by Kurtzman Trek in this modern era. So overall, I am cautiously optimistic. It gave me all the feels. It was fun. It's like, this is what I want from Star Trek. But I believed that before. You tricked me before. So still have that anxiousness, still have that nervousness. But it was a fun episode. I loved being with the cast. Can't wait to see more cast members. There's little teases in there of what people have been up to and seeing family members and stuff. Just like a lot of things. It's like, oh, that was nice. That's fun. And I hope they keep that up. I hope they don't go off the rails. And if Robert Meyer Burnett and Nerdrotic of all people, if they're saying it's good, this thing might actually be good. Like if those two guys are like, yeah, they course corrected. They gave us something good. Those guys are saying that. As cynical as they are towards modern Star Trek and franchises in general, maybe there's hope after all. And who would think that hope would come from a rather cynical place like that? So anyway, I'm hoping that it keeps it up. Cautiously optimistic. Let me know what you thought down below. You can check out my ranking of the Star Trek movies right over there. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.